us all down, unmute yourself so you can at least talk. So anyway, I'm covering for Teresa this morning. She'll be in a little bit, and of course, she'll be beautiful. So I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. He really doesn't need any introduction, really, other than just being awesome, and I love him. So, Mr. Bryan Fitzpatrick, take it off.
Well, Janice, I just love you so much. So thank you very much. I think Teresa may have built this up a little bit much yesterday, but here we go. Today, I want to talk about change. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a big fan of change. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a buddy of mine last night and talking about what I was going to talk about today. And he goes, "Oh, no, I mean, this is perfect for you. You don't like change, that's for sure." So I've never been a big fan of change, but change happens. And sometimes change happens and it's something that we can't control. And sometimes change happens because, well, actually, we know that we need change, so like we know we need to change directions. We need to do something differently, right? So I want to take you back to and forgive me on my dates because I have this little phenomenon. It's called CRS. I can't remember stuff. Um, anyway, going back about, let's see, I've been doing this about 18 years, back to about 2003. I had been in the engineered wood industry I was doing, we designed floor systems and calculated loads and whatnot, but I went to work for a small mom and pop wholesale lumber yard, and they wanted to get into the engineered wood industry. So they needed to have engineering departments in multiple locations, right? So I went to work for this little company and I was doing what I've done for the last, at this point, 12 years. And so I went in and we set up their program. We started them with $0 and a stack of engineered wood. And we started to build their program. We were covering Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. These guys, there was the dad who owned the company, and he was an old school lumber guy, and he made his living selling units of lumber and transporting them for single digit margins, like 5-6%. And I came in and we were going to do engineered wood, and it was a whole different game. But we were going to make closer to 18 to 20%. So we were making great margins, right? So when I negotiated my deal, I negotiated that, based on my performance, it would affect my pay rate, right? So anyway, needless to say, the old guy, his daughter was the president of our company, and her husband ran our retail entity. Great people. They were like family to me. We did everything together. They would come to town. They would fly in, not like a Learjet or anything, right? He would fly in on his little Cessna plane and pick me up, and he would take me down to Port Aransas. They had a place down in Port Aransas, and they would fly me out to Lajitas. We would go to this resort. It was in Southwest Texas, and we would spend lots of time together. So anyway, we started out with $0 in sales, and within two years, I took them from $0 to about $23 million in sales annually. Well, obviously they owed me quite a sizable raise. I was already making more money than they were used to paying, but they owed me approximately $35,000 in salary. And Mr. Guthrie, the old guy, he was like, there is no way we can pay this guy that money. And so he sent his daughter, who was like my sister, up to Dallas to let me go. They laid me off that day, right? I was distraught. This was my baby. This is all I worked on. I built this thing. I was bringing stuff in from Germany. I was killing the market because no one could compete with us. So anyway, I get laid off and there's my change, right? It was uncontrollable, but now I have change. So I go home and I sulk around and I'm upset. I had several calls to go back into the industry, but there's one thing that I remember that day that I said I will never let someone else control my destiny. It's not going to happen. I from now on, I make my decisions. Hey, if I can take these guys from $0 to $23 million, what could I do for myself? Well, I had no idea what I was even going to do. I could have gone back in the industry, but I was not. I was not going back. So I laid around, and it was really honestly, I tell you this because this is my starting point. It was a low point in my life. Um, I laid around. I was depressed. I was going through my life savings. Um, I had my home was on the foreclosure list. My truck was hidden in my garage. Um, they were coming to take it. So anyway, I lay around, and then Becky and I were dating at the time, and um, one thing I know for sure, she wasn't dating me for money. Maybe she was dating me for opportunity. I don't know. I didn't know why she was hanging around. But anyway, she calls me one day and she says, Bryan, listen, you have to help yourself. You got to get up. She goes, you would talk to a wall. Why don't you sell real estate? And so, real estate is something that I always wanted to do, but there was no way that I could leave this career of 14 years to go to something where I didn't know where my next paycheck was coming from. Right. So anyway, she talked to me, and that day I actually I called my parents and I borrowed money from my parents and I got into real estate school. I did have a conversation with Kelly Can, and she thought it was a great idea that I get into real estate. So anyway, I truthfully, uh, I owe it to Becky because she honestly, she saved me, and she knows this, right? But anyway, so I start real estate school. This is a change, right? I go to school. Um, I get my license, and the problem is they taught me about laws, contracts, and agency, but I had no idea how to sell a house. And thank goodness I was at Keller Williams, right? Because I knew it's the number one training company in the world, right? So uh, I I started to learn how to sell houses, right? And I was pretty good at lead generating because Becky's right. I will talk to anybody. And so I went out and I was making contacts and I was meeting people, and I would write things on post-it notes and I would write things on pieces of paper, and I always put them in my inbox. And I could probably make you vomit right now if you realize I only checked my inbox about once every 3 months, and it was amazing the leads that I did not follow up on, all of the business that I missed out on. So I knew I needed change at that point. I needed somebody to help me with my weakness. My weakness is the paperwork and organization, right? So at this point, I decided to hire a transaction coordinator. So I had been working with a girl that was in our office, and she had the files that I had going. Um, but I called her on the weekend and she wouldn't answer my call, and she had my files. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you not taking my calls? And she goes, well, Bryan, I'm off on the weekends. And I was like, but you have my files. So anyway, at this point, I'm going to make a change. I decided that I was going to hire her, and then she would be working for me. And if I need to get in touch with her on the weekend, then I would get in touch with her, right? But my limiting belief at that time was that, wow, now I have somebody that I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for their livelihood, their income, right? So that's a lot of pressure. And that's the issue with change for me, is that there's pressure, there's a little bit of anxiety, right? And it's just the fear of the unknown, right? Well, the good part of it is that we began to set up my systems and models in our business. I knew what my weaknesses were. It was the organization, the paperwork, but our business really began to grow. I started following up on a lot more of those leads. And it was time to hire someone else. So we were going to make another change. So I hired my first buyer's representative. And I can remember thinking, like, how can I hire somebody and give up half of all of my buyer transactions? How can I give up half? I couldn't fathom that, right? Well, the good part is that it allowed me to focus on my big rocks, right? It allowed me to focus on the things that I needed to focus on, and the buyer's representative could handle all of the buyer side of the business, right? It allowed me to keep things more narrow. So our business continued to grow, and it was time for change again, right? So at this point, I hire another buyer's representative. So I've got two buyer's representatives. They've got their sphere of influence. They're working open houses, and the business continues to grow. So our business gets to a point to where, and this is over the course of some years, but our business continues to grow, and it tops out at about 16 to 17 million dollars in sales. And I kept bumping my head on the ceiling. We couldn't break through the 16 to 17 million dollars in sales. And Teresa was always talking about going from E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful. So I knew that I needed to do something to be able to break through that ceiling. So at that point, I decided to hire a MAPS coach. Once again, here's change, right? And that uneasiness of paying $1,000 a month. How am I going to pay $1,000 a month for coaching? I mean, it's crazy. That's $12,000 a year. Well, the good part of it is that we truly started implementing the MREA systems and models, and our business went from $17 million to $27 million in sales. Well, I realized at that time that I wasn't paying for coaching. I was investing in my business. So the one thing that happened when I got together with MAPS Coaching was my business became scalable, right? I know how many calls, how many dials it takes to get so many conversations, how many conversations it takes to get an appointment, how many appointments it takes to get a contract, et cetera, right? And if we weren't meeting our goals, my coach would say, we need more conversations. We need to make more calls, right? But we've had our database set up, and we know it's systematic. We know we're touching everyone once a quarter, right? And they wanted us to make more calls, and that seemed to always be the answer, right? And although it's effective, this is not a true motivator for me. This doesn't move me, right? So I went to Shannon's 12-week year, and we sat in the class, and she was talking about different ideas to get business. And this was just in one class, and she was coming up with all these multiple ideas to get more business. And she talked about that day, and I know you guys have heard me talk about the unsolicited CMA. Well, she was talking about the unsolicited CMAs and how you should send some out each day. And I was like, wow. So she's up here just teaching a class, and she's already given me more ideas than I ever had through my MAPS coaching. And this is what I needed, right? I just wanted a different way. How can we go get more business, right? And so so I talked to Shannon, and I basically begged her to coach me, and she was even more expensive, right? And I was like, wow, okay, now we're going to pay more money. This is change. It's uncomfortable, but it's going to cost me more money. And she wants me to throw 8 client events per year on top of my CMAs. CMAs is not a big deal, but the 8 events, wow, that's kind of expensive. I don't know, I don't know how this is going to work. Well, the premise of it is simply that we've always focused on our A and our A plus clients. And we'll never forget our A and our A plus clients. These are the people that have referred us once or they've referred us multiple times, right? But now we're opening up our events and we're making very memorable events that people love. But we're including our B and our C clients. So now we're teaching these guys to refer us, right? The good thing is that she completely changed the way we run our business. And it's not, we still make our calls, but it's not about how many dials we need to do. It's not about how many people we need to talk to, but now it's about how many people can we get to our events. By the way, through our unsolicited CMAs, which I highly recommend for everyone, we're up to 4 listing potentials at this point. So we've only been doing this for really since December. So I'm looking for big things to start showing up. And I tell you all of this, I tell you all of that to tell you this. We're all in a time of change. Our industry's changing. The way we do business is going to change. And I want to start off by telling you it's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. You see, over the years, I've had lots of change, but something always good came out of it. There was good that always happened. And I just think that right now it's more important than ever that we all lean in and we embrace it, embrace the change. It's going to happen. And there's going to be a purging in our industry. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to go away. It's not going to be us. You've got to lean in, embrace it. Our office is setting us up to succeed and succeed at a very high level. But have conversations, come by. My door's always open, but embrace the change. And as Gary Keller says, it's time to go get our unfair share. I'm going to get mine. Are you? That's what I got.
Wow. I love that. Oh my gosh, that was awesome, Bryan. Yes, there is a lot of change going on. And I too have seen a lot of change in this industry, and it's always gotten better. So heads up on that. Okay, so just briefly, the things that are happening is today, open houses with Nilsa at 9:30 in the training room. Tomorrow is our ALC meeting. It's at 11 o'clock. And everybody come to that. Everybody's invited. It's a great business meeting and it just tells a lot about our company. At 3 o'clock in the cafe downstairs, we are having a happy hour. And who doesn't love happy hour? If we happen to have a good reason. We have the Lake Cities group coming over, as many as can be there. Please try to come. It's really, really important for them to understand that we embrace them, include them in our family. So be here tomorrow at 3. And then on Thursday, what do I say? That's with Seth. So that's a series that's been happening too. So that's a great class. That's also in the training room. And then the Value Square will be streamed again on April 25th. And Kennedy put the link in the chat. So y'all go get that and go watch it again. It's awesome to see. I'm gonna watch it again myself because you always get something on the second go round, right? Okay, well, that's it. Everybody go have a nice day. Bring us recruits, bring us people to talk to. Okay, bye.